The Vial of Remembering by K. Rye, Part 2.
Oh, hello again, folks. Back in Part 1, Rugo left off wandering with a lantern through the cold and cloudy night, complaining about his wife and the abandoned goats inside his inn. From there, Rugo hissed along his walk, listening to a herd of goats bleating like mad, running behind a band of wild stallions in the clearing. What abominable kind of moon shines down tonight, that the indoor goats should keep quiet and the outdoor ones be restless? Why do my bones feel so stiff while the air is growing warmer than it ought to be? He stopped, turned to see if he was alone, and whispered, "There should be footprints in the mud, yet why have I left no tracks? Has she finally tainted me with devil's potion? Am I whisked away into the strange places of the souls? Or do I step on deceitful ground, fraught with the devil's thorns? Is my path accursed, my soul abandoned by the highest heaven? But why me? Why not Timo instead? All his fault. He lies about his dreams. He wanted to see me fall, that wretch." Rugo had gotten miles down the road when his brother, who'd been awakened by goats outside his door, tried to go back to sleep, though his heart was deeply burdened, and the burden, as burdens often do in the night, spoke to his mind. Finally, he stood up in his hut thinking about that dream he'd had years before, how he'd said to Rugo, "Truly, I dreamt this, brother, that if you give Lucia's cousin the forge key, you'll complain far less, I'm sure of it. Hark, the dream is true, and odd as it may be, I am meant to tell it to you." Now Timo said to himself,
"I have long known this, that it was my fault, the theft of the forge shop. I misled my brother, but how? How could I have known? Dreams do not deceive, and yet this one did."
He changed his clothes out of reverence, then walked out to the edge of midnight's wilderness, westward, squeezing his cross to pray, saying, "Why? Father, why would you have sent angels to give me that dream? I don't mean to object, it's just, oh, Rugo hates me now. I can feel it. I can live with keeping no wife and no child. But now, it's as though I have no brother. We used to laugh at the crash of thunder, used to go fishing there in that lake. But now I'm not worth the clouded old wool of his footstool." In the meantime, Rugo travelled eastward on the winding path, then came to a curious patch of fog, griping as if to blame the unblameable, mumbling, "So now the clouds think they can rest in the pathway. How is anyone supposed to see where they're going without tripping over a stone?" And as he left the fog behind, he saw it. Two great horses that stood as still as time trapped in a bottle. Behind them was that looming wagon from which not a creak was heard. Its wheels were the height of a man's shoulders. It stood as long as three horses, its old wood grain scarred with nicks and carved with birds ascending into timeless flight, and its arched grey roof rising like an eternal prayer high over the temporal old road, as if the night itself were asleep and the fog might roll over no more. Now, they say that Rugo couldn't tell whether the curtains were drawn open with the inside as dark as pitch, or drawn shut as if to hide the candle flicker of a whispering gang of thieves who were tallying their loot in secret. Though, even frightened, his lips casually complained about something. Well, they had to. He could seldom ever remember what else to do. So, standing beside the silent horses, he whispered, "Look at this thing. It comes like a ghost from centuries ago, probably stolen." This village draws robbers like rot draws maggots. That wagon's probably full of short, stout, hungry little travelling cave thieves who'll want to stay in the forge house. He grumbled on under the silent night, inventing things on the spot to complain about, saying they could sleep in that wagon, but they probably want to stay inside only because they've never been in a house before in all their lives. Annoyances. Is my inn a museum for impoverished cave-dwellers, all being excited to see the inside of a true stone-built haven? Will they be leaving their rodents there too? I should have to have them hide their tattered old vessel behind my cottage. The neighbours already think me a useless flop without such a sight to stir their gossipings. But I'll take these strangers' money, assuredly. And I'll figure out how to charge them interest. Maybe a deposit on our warmed water, just in case it gets cold by the time they're finished with it. And it will. Oh, but must I return home to clean up after horned beasts at this hour, to make the beds by candle flame? What to do with the abandoned goats, I wonder? Maybe these wanderers will take them. Then I suppose I must hurry home before these drunken outsiders figure out how to get to the inn. He huffed, turned on one foot, started to march off to get the job done. But then he stopped to listen closely. Who calls my name? Signore Rugo, the whisper wafted toward him. I have a gift for you. When he turned back, he saw that the curtains were drawn open and a fire burned in a little wagon hearth. There were deep brown couches that curved into the two back corners, layers of gold and scarlet rugs, a little round larch wood table and a pair of gilded, curule stools, I think they're called, yes. And lanterns by the dozen hung from the ceiling between tangled strings of beads that scalloped overhead. This mysterious woman, and they say she was entirely ageless, was there alone, wrapped in a dull brown cloak. She took something from a tall leather bag, stuffed it into a burlap sack, then gazed out to summon Rugo with a gesture. Come, signore, I have a gift for you. Ask no questions. Here, she stood up to reach down to him with the gift as he approached the wagon. He asked, Are you here for an inn? No. I never lie in strange beds. I have all my best dreams here, in my safe little wagon. Rugo, though, could not have cared less about her dreams or her safety. He said, Then who are you, to know my name? No more questions. Here, she said, take this home with you. Why do you gift me? He asked. Come back tomorrow. Then, signore, we'll talk. But you have parked in the middle of the high road, and the ground is mush from all the rain, so if any guests come to stay in my inn, they'll be blocked. You have no inn. What you have is an empty shop. No one's coming, not tonight. How do you know? Take the gift, you fool. I say, take it and come back tomorrow lest the goats eat your wife's hair while she sleeps. The goats, oh, I don't have time to chat, woman. I have to get home. Here, she said. So he took the burlap sack and carried the thing home, where he made sure all the front and back doors were tightly closed so no goats could enter. After he saw that his wife was still asleep, he retreated to his forge house, where the 9 goats escaped the total darkness, rushing into the open night as soon as he opened the door. Good. Let the goats be someone else's problem, he said to himself. Alone, Rugo the grumbler shut the door tightly, lit candles, and sat there on the bed, grumbling about the gift in the bag between his feet as he looked down at it. What good will this do me? And who was that woman? Why didn't she give me an iron cauldron instead, or some moulds? I could use those. He complained about the gift until daylight, then took it and set it on the table so the sand would run down. Tall it was for an hourglass that counted a single hour, narrow, having carvings of suns and moons in its silvery cradle. And as the sands ran with the quiet elegance of time's passage itself, they say even the demons left because they couldn't stand to hear his constant complaining another moment. This floor is a mess. Either God doesn't know how to make a world, or this was his very first one. Look at this place, mud everywhere. Animals just relieve themselves wherever they want to, indoors and out. Even the trees just drop their spent leaves any old place, no regard for cleanliness. And the angels sleep all day, I'm sure of that. Yes, since they certainly never help me. He went on, besides, the people he made are worse than the world. Why, my neighbors are all a flock of birds. Where one goes, they all go. When one comes back, they all follow. Gossipers they are. Just because I said those dirty little orphans should get a job. And why don't people call me by Signore? I could have sworn they did. A time ago, the best ones called me Signore Rugo. Then I worked with Timo and they all stopped. Of all, I am deserving of pedestals beneath my heels. Who knows the things that I know? I could keep the world turning on iron alone. My head is filled with the details of my true vocation. It crowns me of itself, though they can't see how my head might as well be engorged with all my knowledge. Yet they expect me to remember all their names, whatever for. I have no use for either them or their pesky names. The names of them sound like the names of horseflies, and calling them by the names would be as foolish as calling flies by names. Or cats. Why is it so cold in here anyway? And look at this place. What kind of man could possibly concentrate on what he must complain about with a mess like this to stare at? Well, Rugo had once been a man of brawn, but could have fit into the clothes of narrow old Timo now. His eyes, once shimmering brown when he complained, were now dull and sunken in, with grey circles around them. No one ever did figure out what kept him alive with hardly a meal and nearly no sleep all those months. He turned his eye to the hourglass now, saying, well, at least that thing is filled with a contained mess of sand. No, not disheveled sand, but organized sand. Look at that thing. He grew intrigued with it about 10 minutes in. Look at how the sand slips with more poise than a candle flame, not dancing like a jester, just falling forever, he whispered. Falling into itself like that, as if to change without changing into anything else. It's just sand. Just sand. After a few hours of staring into the sand and complaining, he asked himself, well, when did that timepiece run out? I didn't even see it run out. His eyes had never left that timepiece once, and now all the sand was in the lower bulb. So as the sun rose, he waxed astonished, saying, I don't understand. It wasn't dark before. Or was it day? Did I sit up all night in this forge house chattering? Lucia hasn't even come to nag me about eating or fixing the leg of the old cupboard again. She keeps it over full. That's what's wrong with it. He was watching the dust in a pale sun ray when he gasped, oh, time has surely gotten away from me. Well, he scratched the stubble on his throat, then went on, mumbling and frowning hard. What is to be done about time being so fragile? Why should the Creator make a sort of time that fleets, this fleeting time? It's like a water pot with a hole in it. What would be the point? The most ridiculous invention ever is time that drips away through a crack. Then people drip away through a crack, and no one ever tells anyone else where they are going, where they can be found in the next world. The whole system is as useless as an ant pile in a garden. The door creaked open. Then in stepped a young woman, her face familiar, though somehow not quite right. She said, Papa, my wedding is in only 3 weeks. Haven't you long repaid the loan? Have you gathered my dowry, or haven't you? He answered, Yes, yes, I'll have your dowry, child. Papa, Antonio's family. They say the village hasn't enough provolone for the guests, that you'll have to get it from one of the big villages. He stared at her, trying to remember when she'd gotten engaged, then crossed his arms to gripe at her. Well, I'll provide it all, since you had to grow up so fast. I'm hardly ready to marry you off, but what does that matter to you, or anyone? You should have been a boy, anyway. Father, she squeezed the ties of her apron as her lips trembled. You always smell of your forge, yet I have never complained about you because of that. Child, what complaint could you possibly have of me? I do everything right, every day, yet you will never be my heir. They say there was silence between them for 3 days as she stood there weeping in the forge house, struggling to see her father through her tears. With each breath she meant to speak, though each breath she lost to yet another drifting sob, and all while the sun went up and down in the window. Finally, Rugo asked her, Is your mother still alive? Yes, Papa. I've lingered with you here too long. I have things to do, she said. Then she left him alone again as he lay back on that bed to stare up at the ceiling, lost. He started complaining about having to put up her dowry, then about dowries in general, then about the value of money, then about money in general, then about things people do with their money, and finally how he wished he had more of it, but how the saints had overlooked him in their prayers. Then he thought of the village where the groom-to-be was from, how the wedding would be at that cathedral that had a great tall mechanical clock tower, probably the only one for hundreds of miles around in those days. Well, he complained, why should a church of all places have such a clock? Heaven knows that when those clocks stop, someone dies. And even when they start the darned things up again, the person stays dead. Priests shouldn't have the power to take life. Hypocrites. Soon he drifted onto a new subject, moaning, how very cold it is. If only I had a good axe for chopping firewood instead of the cracked one. Someday I'll swing that axe, and its blade will shatter into my eyes, my teeth even. It's Timo's fault. Limlock. I never believed it. He feigns this sickness, if only to escape work, yes. Lazy. Just lazy he is. He changed the subject again, now complaining that he could have nothing good in life, that he was starving, tired, and cold. After a moment his granddaughter, already born and already 6 years old, oh yes, all in what seemed like minutes, opened the door and went to her grandfather, singing the same songs his daughter sang when she was 6. She smiled with dimples and glossy brown eyes, saying, Great Uncle Timo whistles very well, Nonno. He's going to teach me how to make the sun slow down with whistle songs. Still flat on his back, chills ran over his body because he finally realized that he'd complained his life away. So, as the granddaughter ran giggling out the door, Rugo closed his eyes to lament, real blacksmith's tears trickling over the pointy cheekbones of his skinny, hungry face. I've spent my life complaining. I am the hole in the iron pot. Yes, me through which time drains. His round eyes stopped blinking. The tears stopped falling. Not a finger moved. Even his busy lips grew still. And all his chills faded away. A hole. I'm a hole, he grumbled. To be born a hole. Oh, such a dark fate. I've never met another hole in all my life. I'm the only one, a walking, breathing hole, the lone hole of the world. Lying there with both bony hands over his face, he heard a voice that echoed from nowhere.
Now, after a lifetime of wallowing in your foolish, nay, compulsive complaints, that one is the first meaningful complaint you have ever complained, and so much more. Rugo, open your eyes. Learn to remember that which you always forget. What I mean is, love what you hate. Then your days will slow to pleasant moments.
He was frightened by the strange voice, of course. I'd have been too, especially one echoing far and wide inside my shop. That's just not natural for the physics of indoors. At least I don't think it is. I'd probably have hurried outside and not gone back in for a day or two. Utterly creepy, I'm sure. But when he opened his eyes again, he saw that the hourglass was still running, with a little more sand in the upper glass bulb than in the lower. His wife sat down beside him on that hay bed, saying softly, "I'm sorry for saying you would poison me, Rugo. I've been so sorry about everything ever since the thieves came that year." Well, he immediately took her hand and sobbed, "Oh, Lucia, I've had a terrible dream. But I can't bear to complain about it. No, no more complaining. I've been like a hole in an iron pot of water." "Then what do you want to do, if not complain, Rugo? Do you wish instead to tell me all about the dark dream that pierces your heart?" "No," he whispered, sitting up to embrace her. It would sound so simple, yet so hard to understand, how there was this bizarre silence as I watched the light of day dawn fast and fade to night too quickly. It was like the scrambling of a puzzle, to say the least. None of us were as we should be. Oh, it aches me. Rugo looked her in the eyes, almost squealing like a rusted hinge. "Please, my love, I only know that I want to eat food again, to sleep in our soft bed again, and to feel your long and true embrace again. And this I want to do every day gladly for the rest of our lives, and to bless our beautiful daughter." So Lucia took his hand and led him into the kitchen, then served him her Sunday spaghetti, even though it was now Monday morning. Then she tucked his bony form into bed and let him sleep all day, for he was so very exhausted, and when he woke it was Monday night. Lucia had fallen asleep in his arms, but he knew what he had to do. So he stirred quietly, let her sleep, put on his cloak and boots, went into the forge house to bag up the hourglass, then left with it, returning to that foggy path where he found the gypsy wagon and the gypsy herself, who sat inside it among dozens of tiny bright lanterns, humming to the tune of her little music box while waiting for him. And knitting. I've heard that the woman loved to knit bright little hand puppets for the children who had no siblings, and for the orphans and for the lost siblings too. "Well," Rugo said, "Donna della Luna, which means Lady of the Moon. I come to return the hourglass." "Ah," she stood to greet him with a gesture. Come up, Signore Rugo. Have a seat on a stool." They say she smelled like smoke from olive wood, dried figs, and fresh bergamot. There at her table, concealed by the strange fog that wrapped the wagon, she took the hourglass out of its burlap bag, smiled at Rugo, saying, "Now, I will answer your question. This is the very old hourglass, which used to belong to a man who was known in my country as the Hole in the Iron Pot. Well, the Hole for short. All he ever did was complain, ever since he was injured." She sat taller, saying, "Actually, he always complained. It just got worse after he was injured, lost the top of his pinky finger, yes, for life. It never grew back. Oh, no. Could you imagine? Only 9 fingernails for eternity. Well, back home they say he complained to this hourglass day in and day out. He brought it with him wherever he went and turned it once an hour. Finally, he wandered sleepless, starving, cold and alone into a cave where he never turned the timepiece over again. Why not? Because, he grumbled himself to death. But how did you know about me? Rugo asked. Oh, the angels give me the dreams, so I go where they tell me. But the spirit of this hourglass has seen so much that it's grown wise, so wise it knows how to make a complainer pause to remember what he has forgotten. This hourglass, this is why I remembered then, he said. His eyes sparkled with intrigue. And he couldn't stop nodding. He said, yes, yes. I have remembered to eat again. I've remembered that I was so tired, and I have remembered my love for my lovely wife and daughter. I have seen the traps of my own lips, the power they've taken over my days. She whispered, I know you have. He stopped his nodding to say, so now I don't have to complain myself to death. He lifted his hand with folded fingers, stuck the skinny pinky up to examine it. His smile, thin as wire, drifted open, and out came a breath of joyous laughter. At least I can still grow myself back over my bones. Please tell me, how can I repay you? Oh, she said, why, certainly not by returning to me a gift I've given you. Then shall I keep it? Certainly not, signore. Instead, I will take it as a trade. She shoveled another gift out of her bag and laid it in his hand. It was a tiny amber glass vial with a cork in the top. He asked, what is this? This is a vial of your joy. An angel captured it early this morning after you strengthened yourself with food, embraced your kind wife, and lay down to take a long nap. With eyes wrapped in a soothing veil of wonder, the man smiled at her. Shall I open it? She shushed him, hurried to close the big curtains. There at that little table she said, No, signore. You see, this you will keep with you always. So if ever you completely forget about all that you truly adore again, then you will open it. But don't waste it. Cork it quickly as soon as you hear the first peep of your joy. Sounds like a whistle tune. You see, this is potent, and it won't take much as long as you bind your hope to it, for this is what makes sweet the very bridge between today and tomorrow. This vial, my friend, shall surely last you all your life. Oh, he stared at the vial, imagining the power of the joy within it. After a moment, the gypsy asked, Well? Well, what? She lifted the vial from his hand to show it to him again. Do you want to trade the timepiece for this vial, signore? Oh, yes, I do. Then it is done, said she. From this day onward no longer shall you be the hole in an iron pot. She gripped it in her hand a moment, held it close to her collarbones, and urged Rugo, saying, All right then. Take it home and never part with it. Protect this joy all the days of your life. If flames spread outside your house, if ever a flood or masked thieves burst into your home, hide your wife, hide your daughter in the safest of places. But don't forget to carry this vial to safety too. For you see, without it, it would be as though a member of the family had perished. But never, ever flaunt it. Keep it secret, lest this joy be tested by the spirits of the schadenfreuders. What are such spirits? She crossed her arms. Soon, signore, I will start charging you for answering all these questions. Now, I don't know exactly where they come from, though my first late husband used to speak of them all the time. Tempting these, he used to say, is like tempting fate. Oh, I see. She said, Do you see the importance of keeping secret this vial now?" "Yes, absolutely," he said with big brown eyes, all the nods cascading through his neck again. And so she laid the vial in his palm for good now, and his fingers wrapped it as though it were his soul. As Rugo left, he bowed as though the woman were a queen. Oh yes, he backed through the fog, bowing and bowing. Thank you, Donna della Luna." And she answered, "Well, I'm flattered, yet this is not my name." "Then what is it?" he asked. "I'll never ever tell," she smiled, "but I am somebody." "Good night, Signore Rugo, and let your joy serve you like your forge will, patching up little holes everywhere." Well, after that night, Rugo kept the little amber vial of remembering with him everywhere he went, even to the wedding of his daughter many years later, after he had become a respected, beloved, and charitable businessman, who even the village doctors who knew Timo would call Signore Rugo out of sheer endearment, and they even called Timo Signore Timo. They say that Signore Rugo made all the henges and gates and vents and such for the new orphanage, all without a single charge, and that he took in many of the lost and precious little orphans as his apprentices, and that the ones who handled the village loans were quite literally tripping over themselves to rush to his aid and offer loans without interest, all because they believed in his good character. And Rugo, they say, hired Timo to work in the forge, doing the easy tasks, and he paid his brother very well. And they went fishing, caught not a single fish, because they'd become so close that they couldn't stop talking the whole time. They were brothers again, laughing brothers, and crying brothers, consoling brothers, yes, the truest of brothers. And when Timo was 64 years old, he finally married a lovely old maid who'd worked as a cook, moved her into his expanded hut with its 2 bedrooms. The family knew about the vial, and it was a family secret all their lives, for by protecting it, and the joy of one another too, they protected so much more. Now Timo's wife, Di Ahna, insisted on cooking for everyone. Even through the blizzards and the most frightful of storms, there was tortellini, minestrone, or a nice frittata fresh in the pot, and she did have the best pots in the whole village, made by Rugo's own apprentices. So they all became a little bit fattened, slept well every night, and all shared the warm, engaging sort of chatter of one big, happy family. Although Rugo still complained about those forge thieves every now and then who'd never been caught. Little did he know, of course, that the mysterious Signora somebody had caught up to them. Oh yes, all 3 of them, with her bag of quite priceless gifts. But that's another story. Well, good night, folks.